Okay, my hat is Old Spicy, and today I'm going to talk to you about letting go of all your imperceptible difficulties. What are these imperceptible difficulties? They are never, ever going to be useful to you. And so the next thing is, what are the things that are not useful to you? The answer is, we are unable to tell you exactly. But we're going to give the example from the Harry Potter movies and a certain class that the students took. And it was called Defenses Against the Dark Arts. So the dark arts would be things that magicians do to hurt other people or beings. And so when you take this course, Defenses Against the Dark Arts, that is a difficult question whether you should decide to take the course or not. Because there's a certain amount of undeclared brainwashing going on with you. Because you must take in the information about all this stuff. And by taking in this information, you have let go of wisdom. What is the wisdom? The wisdom is, if you are going to go and build a big database of data, then you are putting in all kinds of stuff. And you, when you go to access this information, you don't see how many times we're given a counter proposal. And the way we're looking at this is a battle of see, I just did it. I used the word battle, which connotates war. The title of this particular talk I'm giving to you right now is You Are Your Instrument. If you are a wizard in Harry Potter world, you are your instrument. So what does your instrument include? Well, when you watch Harry Potter, the wizards pretty much always use a wand that they got at the wand store in Magic Town, whatever that's called. So what do we come to believe? Well, if you can disarm one of these magicians in the Harry Potter world by taking away their wand. So does that mean for you personally, living here on planet Earth, it means anything to you in your everyday life? Yes. Because of our never-ending need to come up with no more questions. No more questions is a time when the teacher, the lecturer, can run away from all the students and never come back. It's an exit point. Why do we want exit points? Sometimes we want to go to the bathroom. And I've got too many students here that are asking me questions, and they're very long-winded questions. And I'm probably going to have to spend a lot of time introducing 4 different topics to get to the final answer to the question. And I just spend a lot of time, and I don't really want to be spending all my time answering these kinds of questions, because once I've answered these questions enough, then you who posed the question can answer it, because you're well enough versed in this school of thought to give an opinion. You could enslave a professor of anything if you wanted to have them at your beck and call 24 hours a day, forever. Say you went to Yale University in the United States and you took engineering. And once you get off into the working world and you're doing an engineering project, do you expect, every project that I get, I have to phone my engineering professor? So the question always branches off into, are you calling your professor because he's a dear friend of yours? And if you're not there to have a weekly tea where you have a good laugh, you have like a weekly phone call with your old professor. You're very good friends. You're very fond of one another. And that is the reason why you're calling your professor. And then, sometimes when you're talking with your professor, you might be talking about certain engineering problems, perhaps mathematical problems, scientific problems, because engineering, science, and technology, engineering, they all fit in that same group. So that would be one person who's just calling his friend his former professor because they just like to talk to one another. But another kind of person might be someone who says, that professor is a fountain of knowledge of stuff that I don't know, and I need them to be my slave because, I might wake up in the middle of the night from a dream and say, my God, this dream, I got to get interpreted by Professor Donegal. And we think Professor Donegal, a name like Donegal, it kind of sounds Irish. O'Donegal? Donegal. She was a female professor. She taught Harry Potter. And what we wanted to remind you was, as best as we can remember from the movie, Professor McGonagall shapeshifted from being an old lady magician wearing a costume of, let's go with like Sherlock Holmes kind of time in London, England. Remember what Sherlock Holmes wore? More formal than we are today. Like, they didn't wear t-shirts with, this is like... So, they were more formal. So in Harry Potter, the magicians all kind of like to wear, maybe it was Edwardian or Victorian clothing from like the 1800s, we'll say, to very early 1900s. Like upper crust aristocratic people and professionals, like, you'd expect your professor to be wearing not jeans. They should be like patterned pants, like not even corduroys. They should be like, what would they, like a suit. And anyway, that was if you watch Harry Potter movie, you can get a good idea. Anyway, she shapeshifted from being that to being, I think, a mouse. So what did we witness? We witnessed her physical form morph from a female woman to a small creature called a mouse. So what you see is that actually the stuff that she's morphing from the physical form of the older woman to the morph shows you that some people that get it wrong are going to say that she, the magician, the sorcerer, the witch, the genie, she is what you see. She is a woman wearing a professor's uniform at Hogwarts. Because you say, well, it's really the actress, the female actor. When you can look up on IMDb, Internet Movie Database, on Harry Potter, and you can see what the woman's real human name is. And she's a solid human, like this. She's a body, and the body talks. And in Harry Potter, when she was in character, they used computer animation, but they changed her from the picture of the physical human body, and they morphed it using computer animation into a mouse. And then the mouse ran away. And did the mouse continue to stay as a computer-generated representation of a mouse, or did they morph the computer-generated animation into a real mouse that they bought at the store where you buy mice to feed your big snake? Okay, so the problem is that we are mistaking the physical form and the solidity of it for the thing in itself. What is the thing in itself? It is going to be primarily the divine blueprint of something that you're going to sense using your so-called physical senses. But the thing in itself is not the form. And this goes to Hermetic wisdom, old wisdom, ancient wisdoms. Hermes, who's also perhaps the same person as Thoth. Perhaps the same person as Mercury, or someone who appeared as these three different people, but they were accessing the same source field with the information that they were all talking about. And the first Hermetic principle is all is mind. We're not taught this. When I went to school in, I don't know, let's go with 1980, Common Era, AD, which means Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, which is about Lord Jesus. But if all is mind, then this thing that we call a physical human body is still mind. And if we call it something separate, physical, then we're going to have to transfer what it really is from the world of mind and manifest it in our physical reality here. We're manifesting a solid human body that we, in common language, call a physical body. But Hermes says you're making a mistake, because he says you're calling it physical when this is mind body. It's not physical body, because physical implies that it is made of matter. Instead of everything being spirit, everything is spirit. I'm changing it from mind. But if Hermes said all is mind, I'm going to equivalent it to saying all is spirit. I don't like the word mind, because in some teachings, mind is seen to be inferior to the magician. It sets up planes, Planes, which means levels. Like if you have a 7-layer dip at your Mexican restaurant, that dip is 7 different layers. So we're talking about stratifications. And in some teachings, they teach that mind is very common among humans as being what humans identify as. So we don't want to make Hermes wrong because he was a wise sage. I think it's just words. It's terminology and translation error that we're looking at, because we're looking at it from the picture of someone who was learning defenses against the dark arts. Now, I gave you a huge talk, and I touched on many different things. And this is maybe lecture 7 in defenses against the dark arts. So, if I'm your professor of defenses against the dark arts, and, we're at Hogwarts School, then you're there for, I don't know, a term or a semester with me for introduction to, is it introduction to defenses against the dark arts, or is it introduction to the dark arts? And what we learned in the Harry Potter movie is that the professor of defenses against the dark arts is pretty much going to be corrupted by teaching this subject at all. And it says in the Harry Potter wiki that no defense against the dark arts professor stays in the job for more than a year. So you teach it for this year's class, and then they all bugged out, which means they went somewhere else, and then a new professor came in. So it indicates that anything to do with dark arts is sickness causing. So how are you going to really defend yourself against dark arts? Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui shaman from southern United States, let's say Arizona, Nevada, Southern California, down into Mexico, the Sonoran Desert. Don Juan Matus, when he was training his new apprentices, one of his top recommendations is choose a path of heart. And no one would say that Voldemort in Harry Potter chose a path of heart. There was no love in it. From Voldemort was nothing about, he was all insane. He was so insane that even his best followers, he was mean to them. And he would kill some of his followers. So, a path with heart, that's not what someone like Voldemort, if they were going to give you a rebuttal to what I just said. All right. Okay, the rebuttal from Voldemort is pursuing a path with heart, and it's his heart, and he's pursuing his heart. And his heart, maybe you're making a mistake, because you're saying hearts are always about benevolence to others, helping others, putting others first, service to others. And we're supposed to we're supposed to generate a lot of abundance, extra abundance, that we can gift to these ones. In other words, it becomes a responsibility of mine to look out for their best interests. So if I'm Voldemort, and between the humans and the magician community, we have 8 billion people on planet Earth, you're saying I need to love all these people around me so much. What is love for them? Me giving them stuff? My heart says, the other ones, all of you, you're indistinguishable from dust for me. In other words, if it's a dusty room and I want to go to the bathroom at the other end of the dusty room, I'm not afraid to go and walk through the dust. And my intention is to go pee in that bathroom. So I'm not going to be turned away by a little bit of dust. So Voldemort might say, just for communications purposes with all of you, I have a path with heart. It's my heart. You might call me dark and black and evil. You think I don't have a heart. But heart is courage. And I'm courage. And I'm courage to go walk the other way. Even if you're a bunch of Bible-thumping Baptists, I'm going a different way. You call me evil, and I look at you and I say, you don't believe in anything. Because if you consider me to be, whatever label you call it, my path, well, then what? You say, we don't want you going around doing evil things. And I say, it's your world. I'm Voldemort. I was told in your world that I was doomed to die. I am a mortal in your world. And even in the wizarding world of Hogwarts, they said wizards died. Muggles died, of course, because they had no magic. But wizards died. And Voldemort didn't want to die. So that's why he created all these separate versions of himself called Horcruxes, because we're told that he did murders to split his soul. And so he had, like, was it 7 Horcruxes, 7 different copies of himself? So if one of them died, there was other ones that were still living. So he kept on living as long as there was at least one copy of him. So Voldemort believed in death and killing. And he did it because he had a reason. He was he afraid to die, or he just said no to death? If he was afraid to die, then you would say he lacked courage. And fear is a very low vibration. Fear and death. But if he said, I want to say no, I'm not afraid to say no, I'm like one of you people in Florida. I'm in my house. I go to bed. At 3 in the morning, I hear a ruckus outside. And there's people stealing my stuff. And they got guns. I'm in Florida. I've got a rocket launcher in my bedroom closet. I get my rocket launcher. I open up my window and I shoot the rocket launcher projectile at one of these people who are invading my home territory. And I kill some with my rocket launcher, protecting me and my property. That's what Voldemort says. Voldemort says, I'm just saying no. No, I'm not going to allow a bunch of armed thieves coming into my property, stealing everything, and threatening me with guns. So I'm going to get a bigger gun, and I'm going to say no. No. And I'm enforcing my no. Well, Voldemort is enforcing his no. I will not die. I will not submit to the process of death. So I'm going to do these things. These are pretty scientific things. Make duplicates of me. It sounds very scientific, like you wouldn't even have to be, you could be a muggle at university. Like computer science or engineering. And you could say, well, how can we use technology to extend the lifetime of me? And they think of me as being this. Or they don't. They think of me as being a conscious, non-physical conscious awareness that projects a holographic universe around a fixed spot that we call the avatar body. So anyway, Voldemort was just saying, I have a path with heart. My path is my heart, and my heart is my path. So if we ask Voldemort, well, for you, what would be a path without heart? And he would say, people-pleasing. Which people? The people that taught me that I was going to die, as being the official word, and then giving me lots of examples. Because where I grew up, there constantly were obituaries in the local paper every single night, so clearly people were being reported as dying. And you drive around town and you see the funeral chapels. So in this world, it seems to be common knowledge that people die. And Voldemort says, I was working on my own way of not dying. To prove all these people wrong, nothing about these people at all. I simply heard that was what was going to happen to me, and I was taking preventative measures. The teaching for Voldemort is never ending. Because once we start playing these games of what would this character do and that character do, oh, well, we can entertain ourselves. In any event, this has been half an hour of your time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy them. And if you feel like commenting, please comment.